Apache Spark, right? We tried to understand what is Apache Spark, how it works, how you work with Apache Spark, right? Now, to implement or to use Apache Spark in Azure, as I said, there are two ways. One of which is over here in Synapse Analytics, right? I can open Synapse also for you, and I can use open the second option, which is Databricks also for you, right? So Synapse, since you've already seen how to work and create Synapse workspace, right? So I'll just quickly open it. So here you have this new Apache Spark pool, right? This I think we had seen yesterday and tried to understand how the Spark pool here works. The concept of Spark pool or the concept of creating the Spark cluster, I should say, is the same, right? So you create the Spark cluster in Synapse also, and you create Spark cluster in Databricks also, right? Now, this is already seen. Coming to Databricks, right? Now, if you want to create your Databricks workspace, the first thing that you have to do is click on create over here. You can find Databricks over here on the main page. So in the main page, in the search window, you put the name Databricks, you will find Azure Databricks mentioned over here. So what we have to do is we have to select Azure Databricks, right? Then we have to create our workspace, right? Now, workspace creation is different. Here, we are not going to define anything related to the cluster. We are only going to talk about the workspace, right? Now, if you look closely here, the only information that we have to put is the resource group details, right? So I'll select a resource group name. The name of the workspace, you can put NIC DB demo, something like this, right? Databricks demo, NIC Databricks demo. The region, you can select the pricing. You have standard and premium. And then there is a third trial option where you get free Databricks units, which are again, when you talk about Synapse, you have data warehousing unit, which is a combination of certain amount of compute with storage, right? So similarly, here we have standard and premium, right? Basically offering uh, particular amount of Databricks units, which is again the combination of certain amount of CPU and RAM. And then we can go with the trial version where we get all of this for free, right? So when, let's say you guys have created a free Azure account, right? You can go ahead with the trial version. There is no problem, right? That will only save money for you. So you select either trial, premium, or standard, whatever it is, right? It's fine. It does not make that difference. Obviously, there are some things that you can do with the premium account that you cannot do with the standard account, right? Such as getting role-based access control, right? Here in the standard version, you get Apache Spark along with Microsoft Enter ID as an authentication, right? But on top of that, if you go with the premium version, you get role-based access control also. So then you can assign roles for public, right, or the associates or your employees, and they will be able to access based on the role that they have assigned. They have been assigned. Once this is done, uh, networking not required, encryption you can see, security and compliance, right? Again, this is for monitoring purposes. We'll just review and create this. There's not much that goes into creation of the workspace itself, right? The workspace creation is easy. As I said, validation has passed. If you click on create, what we'll get is this NIC demo Databricks. So this is something that I have already created. Even you can, we'll work in the same configuration, right? It's the same thing that I have created here, right? Whatever we discussed just now, the same configuration has been created here. So once you open the Databricks resource, what you have to do is you have to scroll down and click on launch workspace. All right, we'll launch the workspace. We'll sign into the Databricks. We have some. All right, so this is the main Databricks workspace, right? Where you can see the recently used files if you have any. Uh, you have the workspace section here where you will find all your data. All right. This is where all your files will be kept, right? If you've connected your Databricks environment to a GitHub-based repository, right, or Git-based repository, then you will find it in the repository section. Shared is the data that you are going to share with multiple users, and the users you can find here within your Databricks environment. How many users are there, right? Now this is fine. Inside users, I can create also, right? Folder, query, alert, dashboard, notebook, all of these things. Now, then you have the recent section that will show you what all you accessed recently. You have a catalog section, which is similar to, the creation of a storage section, right? This is where you will get to see where your data is going to and where your data is coming from, right? The catalog section will contain uh, data connections, right? Then you have workflows here, which are nothing but pipelines, right? So whatever pipelines you want to create, you will create them as workflows. Then there is a compute section where you will create your compute, right? We will talk about this. We'll create your compute, right? We'll give it some configuration, and then this compute is going to be utilized to run your notebooks. All right. So here also we'll be creating notebooks only, and we're going to work with notebooks. All right. Now, one thing which I wanted to talk to you about, right, before diving deep into Databricks here, right? It's totally okay if you do not understand what all of these things mean. On the left hand side, you will have SQL related operations, you will have data engineering related operations, machine learning related operations, right? So within SQL, you'll find SQL editors, uh, queries, right? So basically support for your SQL related workloads. Then you have data engineering related workloads, job runs, data ingestion pipelines, yes, and then machine learning. Now, SQL and machine learning is not of importance to us, right? We'll be focusing on data engineering. We'll see SQL, right? We'll see how you work with SQL, and that is going to be it. Machine learning. We'll see how and where you can create and keep your models and then utilize them. Now, before we go into specifics, right? Before we dive into a specific service, right? What we need to understand is the concept of something called as a DBFS. All right. What is DBFS? Now, DBFS is a distributed file system, right? Uh, and the full form is Databricks File Store. All right, DBFS stands for Databricks. Let me just write it down so it becomes easier for you. So, Databricks File Store, that is your DBFS. All right, I don't know why the other pen is not working. It's fine, we can work with this. Now, DBFS, which stands for Databricks File Store, is a distributed file system. This distributed file system will allow you to store, manage, right, and access data, right, that you are going to store in various formats such as your CSV, JSON, XML, Parquet, right? So various formats in which your data is present. This DBFS integrates, all right, it integrates with your Azure Databricks. All right, it connects to the Azure Databricks. All right. So this DBFS provides a very convenient way to work with structured and unstructured data within your Azure Databricks environment. All right. Now, how to access DBFS? I'll show you. File formats uh, are there. You can put JSON, CSV, tab delimited files, XML files, all of that, right? So when you have standard and premium Databricks environments that we had seen, right? There was a data section, right? Earlier, let me just share that screen. So this is the Databricks UI, right? Earlier, instead of catalog, we had a data section over here, right? The data section, as the name suggests, uh, was used to access files and data. All right, in older Databricks UI. Now, in this new UI, this is the catalog explorer over here, where we can manage our data. When you create a premium workspace, you will find this DBFS already there, right? So there is a button called browse DBFS, right? And add data also. If I go to add data, you will see it will ask me to add data from various sources, right? Uh, I can connect to OneDrive, I can connect to Google Drive, Jira, GitHub, I can use webhooks, right? And then I have all of these different sources from where I can ingest my data. Azure MySQL, Azure MariaDB, Azure Event Hub, Azure SQL Database, right? A lot of different locations from where you can get your data within Databricks, right? A lot of them. Or you could just simply go ahead and upload the file. All right. So you can upload tabular data files to create new table or replace the existing ones, right? Or you can select the source from where the data is going to come from, or you can just directly upload, right, files to your DBFS workspace. We don't have to add any data here. We'll just go to browse DBFS. So this browse DBFS button that you see here will allow you to explore the Databricks file store, right? It is not directly available here. You can access it from here. The problem with this DBFS button is that you see on your screen is that when you create the Databricks workspace for the first time, it is hidden. You will not see this browse DBFS button over here because if I go to this particular icon on the top right hand side, click on settings, click on advanced, right? Under the workspace admin settings, I go to the advanced section. Here, if I scroll down, there is something called as DBFS file browser. I have enabled it manually. By default, this is the configuration that you will get, right? So by default, it will not be enabled. You have to enable it manually only. All right. So if I go back to the catalog now and refresh this page, it says DBFS file browser has been disabled. So now under the catalog section, you will not be able to see the browse DBFS button. That is because I had removed it. In order to add that back, in order to add that back, all we have to do is click on this icon, go to settings, go to advanced. Right now, so some of you may be wondering why are we hiding and unhiding it? No, in the default state, it is hidden. So you have to access the settings section and go to the advanced section to enable the DBFS browser. All right. So once you enable it, you have to refresh the page for the changes to take place. So if I'll go to the catalog section, I'll refresh here. This is done. Let's go back. Let's refresh. So I have the browse DBFS button here. If I click on it, I will see all of my data. All right, so all of my data in the DBFS is present over here. I have multiple folders. I have this temp folder where I'm storing a delta table, right? There are two delta table that I've stored here. One is this. The other delta table was also there. So we'll talk about what delta tables are. We'll try to create also delta tables and see time traveling and other features of the delta table. And then there is a file store that I have created. And within file store, I have kept files that we are going to use. All right. These files are the ones that we're going to use in order to test our queries or write code over here in PySpark and work with it, right? Now, this is fine, DBFS. So, DBFS basically gives you a storage layer on your Databricks environment. Uh, DBFS is mounted on top of this Azure Databricks workspace that we have. All right. And there will be a special resource group. It will be created here. If I go to home and I show you, you see this Databricks RG that has been created. So this is a special resource group which has been created for us. All right. And do you see this storage account? This storage account is what the DBFS is. All right. So this is your DBFS, right? It is taking advantage of Azure storage account. So it's building a blob storage. And on top of that, it is storing your data, right? So whatever data is present over here, it will be stored here. So it will not give me direct access. It will give access to only the Databricks service to work with the storage account there. So that is the storage account where this data is actually being stored. All right. Uh, Now, what we'll try to understand is, now we'll see how you're going to read data. All right. So basically, what I want to show you is that you can do multiple things with data, right? But the most important one is to understand how you're going to read it coming from various sources, right? Whether it is in a data lake or whether it is in your own environment, how you going to read that data. Clear?